everyone. Welcome to the 453rd episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by Bill Mann, Reese Miles Thomas, Matt Urey, Philip V, and Caroline Craighead. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Unlove. Today we've got a catch-up episode. Oren and I have a ton of stuff going on in our lives that I think is going to be very interesting to all of you. We're both freaking out. What else is new?
I mean, you work with a celebrity like every week.
That is true.
Yeah.
Depending on how
you're recording this podcast.
I thought you meant actual celebrities. I've been working with musicians every week that are quite famous.
No, I meant me. I meant me. I'm famous in this house that I'm sitting in right now.
Basically, everybody knows who you are in your house, give or take a margin of 25 to 50%.
And oddly, as my kids get older, they seem to care much less about who I am.
And more about the dog, which tracks, honestly. Anyway,
let's get into it. Should we talk about our Patreon?
We should talk about our Patreon.
We did name a lot of patrons.
We did name a lot of patrons. We do have a Patreon. It's where you can throw your support, throw us a buck or two. Keeps the show going. We have a new editor, Kevin O'Yang. Also, we've got new software platforms. We are putting things up on YouTube now. We're putting things up on Instagram and maybe even TikTok at this point. Who knows? But a lot of extra work is going into the show, and I hope
it's never been a better time to follow us on Instagram, right? Because that's where these videos are going.
That's true.
Little clips.
Mm-hmm. The nuggets, the good stuff. It reminds you about the show and also maybe, gives you just a little insight into what we think is the best.
The thing is about the clips, what I've learned from now having made a few is that it really has taught me that our show is much better consumed in long form. I feel like our clips are not short enough.
There is an art to creating clips, for sure. It takes a lot of work, which you, myself, and our editor, Kevin, are all working hard at. So if you go to patreon.com/justshootitpod, you can throw us a buck or two. Keep the show going.
Yeah, because everyone knows the best filmmaking is short filmmaking. So I'm doing this job in Thailand. I've probably mentioned it on the podcast before. And it is a really long trip. I'm going to Thailand for 21 days. I'm using the app Time Shifter that Carlin recommended to help me get over the jet lag. There's a 14-hour difference. I pitched on this job like a month ago or maybe more, and I've just been working on it nonstop. And it has been really hard job because they're 14 hours ahead of us. Like as soon as it hits like 9 p.m. and I'm like just winding down for my day, that's when they're like, "Hey, Oren, can you pop into some callbacks? Let's get on this call. Let's get on this call. Pitch. Let's talk to the agency at 2:30 a.m." And it's really just flipping my whole world upside down. And I'm constantly uncomfortable. Did you have that experience when you worked on your Russian job?
A little less, I think, for sure. But I was there
with Chrissy, your wife.
With my wife, yes. It was a horse of a different color.
For some of that time, right?
Yes. I think we were gone longer than 21 days. I was in Russia for a lot of it. So we ended up doing all of the auditions. There were no callbacks to be remoted in on. It was also pre-Zoom as a standard practice. Pre-COVID. So, we were trading emails, but you would wake up to an email, you'd send it, maybe you'd get one midday and then you'd send one at night, so it wasn't nearly as hectic. Honestly, I did a job with Israel just recently, and that has been more familiar, actually, in terms of the time zones are pretty significantly different. So their morning is our 10 hours, right? So similar in that way, right? Where it's I'm waking up early to catch them at the very end of their day.
But the shoot was LA, right? So your whole production, all the production details were in your time zone. It's just more client agency.
Correct. And they were quite hands-on. However, so that time shift, I think, feels really familiar to me. But I didn't have a situation where I was going to be out of pocket for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And my 3 weeks ends on December 14th. I come back. I do a week-long vacation with my family, who I will not have seen for 3 weeks at that point, and then it's Christmas, and then it's New Year's. So effectively, this one job is taking me out of the running for working on anything else for almost
until 2025.
6 weeks. Yeah, until next year. So
to be fair, no work is happening during those other
the last 2 weeks
anyway. Yeah.
That's true.
You might be bidding on something. I'll bet that by the time you're back, you'll spend some of your vacation writing treatment.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope I have something lined up for January. I actually got an email today from someone in Dubai about a job that shoots there, and it needs to be done by Ramadan, which is in February, delivered by Ramadan. So it's another interesting one because they don't seem to care about Christmas that much. So they're like, yeah, we can shoot the week of Christmas. And for this Thailand job, they don't care about Thanksgiving, obviously. So I'm going to be gone for Thanksgiving. It's my first time being away from my family for Thanksgiving, I think, ever. Like I've always either been with my parents or my kids and my wife.
Yeah.
For as long as I can remember. So I want to ask you at the end of my diatribe here about how you figure out if it's worth it. But before that, I was just going to tell you kind of a few interesting details. One is like, it's such an international production. Production company is in Vietnam. The agency is in Singapore. We're shooting in Thailand. We're doing post in Poland. And we're casting out of Dubai, Lebanon, Australia, and Korea, and Thailand also.
All of that tracks except for the post in Poland?
Yeah, it's our VFX house. We're doing like the offline edit in Thailand, but there's a lot of VFX. We're shooting kind of on grass fields and turning them into like big soccer stadiums. I do. Oh, and my cinematographer who shoots Ted Lasso, David Rom, has a lot of experience doing fake soccer stadiums. He's coming from London. So it's like every meeting scheduled is just such a bonanza of insanity. And I think, I mentioned in an unpaid endorsement, some tools to track that, but it's kind of hard. Like I thought it would be easy because my days would be mine, but I'm barely catching up on anything. And then the evenings, which is, I think when the human brain is designed to like sit on the couch and watch some TV and have a beer, are now just full work time. So, and it doesn't, and I still have to take my kids to school in the morning,
Yeah.
So
I think that there is some perverse part of me that like loves being able to double dip really cleanly, right? Like if you could definitely work another job and really be spinning two plates.
I have been doing a second job this past week, which is trying to replace the shower valves in my shower. I've been to Home Depot 6 times. I keep buying the wrong tool, and my hand is like totally cut up from various accidents.
It's a good time to remind everyone that we are available on YouTube at Just Shoot a Pod if you want to see Oren's
injuries. Yes.
Mutilated hand. Gross.
Anyway, so the double dipping thing is interesting.
Yeah. But if you feel like maybe you're maximizing your productivity, right? If you're having fun, right? And it seems like this is a fun job, but I think you love to complain and you love to be stressed out.
Oh yeah.
But also I think this is maybe a bit more than normal.
Yeah, I do think I've been told that it's a common Jewish thing to complain a lot. So it might just be like a genetic thing. But so here's a perfect example. Last night at 8 p.m., I had to give a 3-hour presentation to the client. So the way they work in Southeast Asia is, you know what a PPM is, right? A pre-production meeting. Usually in America, we have a shoot on Wednesday. We'll do a pre-production meeting on Monday. We have the agency and the client. We walk them through all the details of the cast, the storyboards, wardrobe.
And when we say pre-production meeting, the meeting is misleading. It is a presentation.
Yeah.
There's back and forth, but you are talking for most of the time. Like you are telling everyone, hey, this is what the plan is. This is how it works. Hey, does this still work for you? Great. Okay, we're moving on. Like you're doing 85% of the talking for these 3 hours, basically. There's a book and a PowerPoint presentation and all of this stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the American version is usually more like an hour because most of the things that you're presenting have been seen. Storyboards, some ideas of wardrobe. The casting brief has actually been written by the agency. They usually have been to the auditions. They've helped select the cast. They've approved the locations. Any big questions we've, asked them already. But the way this is happening, and we're working with Ogilvy in Singapore, like a big agency, a big production company. It's not like craziness. Yeah. They don't see anything until this first pre-production meeting. So the agency doesn't write the casting brief. I have to write the casting brief, which is so weird. And a casting brief, for those that don't know, is like, here's the roles that we're trying to cast, and here's what they should look like, and here's what they should do.
So I've written my fair share of casting briefs. Sorry.
Right. From being kind of on both sides.
Yeah. From my stint as a creative director / director. So I wrote casting briefs.
Right. Because the agency, that seems like the demographic is really important from the agency.
Right. Yeah. You can be like, well, I'll pick the person I like best, but like, what is the audience meant to look and feel like? Like, who are we trying to represent? Is there more than one type? All that stuff. But what I found really fascinating is that a couple times I kind of whiffed a little bit and had to call the casting people and be like, hey, these people are all wrong. What, help me dissect what thing threw them off the set where I'm getting things that just aren't working, or the wrong types or whatever it is. Do you feel like you got what you were expecting and hoping?
Well, it's so weird because I'm casting all over the world. My Thai casting people, they're the craziest. They literally, the casting video, they edited it with music and with sound effects and with visual effects.
The casting video?
Yes, I will show you it later. It's bonkers. Like there's this action sequence and they had all the actors do the action scenes. Like there's a part where these chips are flying into their mouths and they VFX chips like as an overlay into the casting video.
Office. The casting video.
The casting office.
This is what the chips flying into your mouth will look like.
Yeah, the casting office did that.
Whoa.
Now in Australia, it was very similar to our casting, just really solid actors doing solid things. A lot of them self-taped. And in the Middle East, the self-tapes were just them talking, describing themselves. This is my height. This is my, weight. This is my age. Here are my profiles. And then they would just do like an array of reactions. Like, they're like, this is me sad. This is me happy. This is me confused. And I was like, it's so weird.
Man,
okay.
That is
and then in the callbacks,
wild.
The callbacks, they all ate the product, which is, it's a chip. But in the thing I'm shooting, they don't eat the product. So I had to have all these meetings. Say, can we redo the auditions? It's really hard for me to judge how these people will do the actions that they need to do because they're just eating the product and they look great eating the product. But so the first spot that I'm shooting is for the Saudi market, but also kind of the bigger Middle Eastern, like Emirati area. We have a Middle Eastern casting, and not surprisingly, there aren't like a million actors in Saudi Arabia. So we're casting mostly out of Dubai, but it's literally like Lebanese actors, Turkish actors, Palestinian actors, some Saudi actors, a lot of Emirati actors. And I don't know culturally like how to nail it all. And then we did find this Turkish kid that lives in Thailand, and he was perfect. And the other thing we never think about is each of these actors need visas to go to Thailand. So if you have an American visa, you don't need a passport to go to Thailand. But if you're Moroccan, you do. And we have this Iranian actress, and she was my number one actress. She was living in Dubai. She's supposed to play a Saudi mom. And because it takes 2 to 5 days to get a visa, we put her on a plane to Iran to go to the Thai embassy to get a visa. And then this morning I found out that the client thought she has the wrong look for the Saudi market. And they totally recast the whole thing. So it's so backwards because in America, we would have had their point of view in the casting brief.
Right.
And so we wasted so much time, right?
And this poor woman's time, I hope she gets compensated for flying to another country.
I was like, she knows she doesn't have the part yet, right? And they're like, yeah, she said she's cool doing it because she knew she was our number one person. So it's so that's crazy. And then, so these pre-production meetings that...
Sorry. Actually, before we get into the pre-production meetings, the thing that, and I think I've alluded to this before, but that's really hard, is like you said, that she doesn't look right for the Saudi market.
Yeah.
And like the she doesn't look right, we've heard 1,000 times before. And like, you can maybe argue that, or like, I think that she does look right or whatever. But for the Saudi market part is like, you're not part of that demographic.
Correct.
And I'm going to guess that other people on the team are, or at least more aware of.
No, that's the crazy thing. The agency's in Singapore, and then the client that I interacted and presented to last night for the pre-production meeting is all based in, like, I think somewhere in South Africa and somewhere in Singapore. And so then there's a local client who's kind of the distributor of the product in Saudi Arabia. They were not on the call that I was presenting, and they're the ones that, because the local client, the Southeast Asian client was like, yes, we love this casting. We'll go with your recs. Let's do it. We just need to pass them by this person. And like, I feel like I know Saudi marketing better than anyone else now because I spent the last week I go to Source Creative, I type in Saudi Arabia, I try to find all the commercials, I go to Riyadh YouTube channels, And every single commercial where there was an adult woman in a home with her family, in every single one that they're wearing a hijab. And I said to everyone I'm working with, like, everything I'm seeing in commercials is that they're wearing the headscarf. Are you sure we don't need the headscarf? And the agency, who's like the creative director, is French, and they're just kind of from all over the world.
Sure.
It's like, no, we want this to be like modern Saudi, you know. And nowadays, not everyone does that, especially when they're at home with their family. So I kind of went with what they said, and now of course, the local client's like, well, I think we'd like the headscarf. So it just changes. It's just so hard, and everything becomes a last minute scramble.
Yeah.
And part of it is because these pre-production meetings is the first time all these people are seeing things. So the way they do productions there is there's 4 pre-production meetings planned. Each one is 3 hours. It's bonkers. The first one is me talking to the agency, showing them my vision. Then the next day, then they give me a bunch of notes and I incorporate them.
These aren't spread out. These are like 4 back-to-back meetings. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's like day one. They take place over 4 days. So yeah.
Yeah.
So,
what I thought you were going to describe is like, there's kind of like check-in where you kind of present things, but you still have time to pivot and adjust.
That's like the American version, kind of.
Sure. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. So no, it's day one is
literally we meet the agency. We have a 181 page deck that has like all these casting options, wardrobe options. It's just bonkers long. It has their storyboards. It has our version of their storyboards. It's our version of their version of the 15. I mean, way too much stuff. By the way, they told me I did my meeting last night, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And they said it was the fastest pre-production meeting they've ever had. And they were actually texting me they're like, Oren, can you slow down a little bit? I'm like,
you're like, sorry. It's 1 a.m. here.
I can't even make it through a 2-hour movie. Yeah. Let alone like a PowerPoint presentation. Anyhow, it's just crazy. So now we had our client pre-production meeting, and now I still have another agency pre-production meeting, another client pre-production meeting for the first part of my shoot. Then I have to do it all over again for the second part of my shoot. So it's just kind of labor intensive. And you know what's crazy in Southeast Asia is like labor is really inexpensive. So our dollar really goes far in terms of like the whole stunt team has been on this entire week before the shoot just to practice things. Like, when's the last time you had a stunt person like spend a week?
For a week? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's like 3 things. It's, and they keep building rigs and they're doing all sorts of stuff.
I know the stunt well enough to know like it's not, we've done things with like, a day of prep basically that are kind of in the same neighborhood in terms of a skill and danger. Right.
It's crazy. It's stressful. It's like hard because the agency's like, it has to be culturally appropriate. It has to be authentic. Everything has to be real. And I'm shooting a spot for straight, Saudi crowd with an Asian agency with an American client. And the scene is Australian football, which I didn't even know it was a sport until I got this job.
So this is what I was getting at before. It's like, there is a little bit of like your authority and your decision-making power is usurped a little bit by these tastes, right? Like someone who's the arbiter of whether or not this is appropriate for a market that you are not a part of is complicated.
Totally. But then there's this, you know how Jordan Brady always says that like the director is like a doula for the agency. They're birthing the idea and you're kind of helping it bring it to life in the most delicate, positive way possible. This is really different because they're like, Oren, they are going to listen to the director. Whatever you say is holy. What actor do you want? What wardrobe do you want? What location do you want? And I'm like, well, this is what I want, but I'm used to like really getting some guidance from you.
I think that's also sometimes, yes, there are cultural differences, but the 2 big international teams that I've worked with it boiled down to personality. Some people were like, just like more opinionated or more stubborn. And some people...
Israeli people? Yeah.
No.
Oh, really?
No. Yeah. But also like amongst a team, right? There's a bunch of different people on these teams, right? It's not like you're talking about one person. We're talking about a creative team. You've got a creative director, a copywriter, and then like sometimes the executive creative director. And so, yeah, those personalities, some people are going to be more deferential to a director, and some people are going to be like, no, I'm the agency. This is what I think should be the case. And also, you haven't had the benefit yet of being around a crew that probably knows these people. Like once you're with your production company a little bit more, you go to drinks with them and they'll be like, boy, that creative director, they're such a pain in the butt. They're always a problem.
Right.
Or like, oh, that person is the best. I love working with them. So
Right.
you don't have the lowdown yet. Yeah.
No context as to whether this is normal or not.
Yeah, exactly.
The one funny thing that happened is when I had my call with the Polish VFX team, they said to my producer afterwards, they're like, wow, it was a totally normal call. I just went over the things we needed. I gave them some ideas. We looked at some references, photoshopped some stuff. And at the end of the call, they said to my EP when I was off, they're like, wow, Oren is so nice. Usually these directors, these international directors are mean. Yeah. And I think maybe in America, we've kind of updated that idea. The directors aren't really mean here anymore, but maybe internationally, there's still kind of this like egomaniacal tyrants.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it's, and maybe they respond well to that. Maybe they want an egomaniacal tyrant. So
I think
I'm going to turn into Oren. It's like the Stefan version of Stephen Urkel. When I'm there, I'll let you know how it goes.
Stefan Urkel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you, how do you gauge if it's worth it? Like, is it a certain amount of money? Is it a certain type of creative? Like, how do I?
It's a big question. And I've thought about it a little bit because I think when you first called me and told me about this job, I was like, dude, you got to do it. But I also was like,
it was also 10 days at the time.
I was like, take the whole family.
Oh, right.
Turn it into a vacation. Awesome. You should do it. And
then I reminded you that that's like $20,000 worth of flights.
Yeah.
And that my child, my third grader, actually needs to go to school.
Yeah. Which is a different deal. Also, when I brought my wife, I exchanged my first class ticket for 2 economy tickets. So
that's smart.
Yeah.
Except you probably could have gotten 4 economy tickets.
Yeah.
You should have done one business and one coach and then swapped flights.
Yeah. Go 50-50. Look, the money's a real thing, right? You've had a good year, but we are headed into some uncertain times. I think things are going to be pretty good for big business, which is good for advertising, right? At least in the immediate future. So the money is less of a deciding factor for me. Honestly, I think the spot is going to be really cool and the creative is really cool. The international aspect, I suspect, will make it harder for you to use.
Yeah, on a reel. Like an end card where the writing is in Korean, for instance.
Correct.
Or Arabic.
Correct.
People will be like, oh, this is...
Yeah.
Even tonally, it's kind of different. Like the Thai commercials are just kind of insane. You know, the performances are really over the top.
The brief has to be really close, like identical to what you're shooting in order for you to be able to use it. Yeah. And like my international work, I don't. But you have cats in it. And I think it 100% is on like your animal reel. Yeah. One of them. But honestly, the one where I looped the voiceover at the end myself.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm glad I'm doing an Australian version because I think that I'll have some English end cards and stuff.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. So, would I have taken the job? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Yes.
Because I've now been asked about another one that would be kind of after that. And it does take me out of the running for the American stuff, which, obviously you and I like love working with funny actors in America. We got into it for.
If it was at a slightly busier time, if it was like March, April, May, I don't know.
May, December.
I don't know that it makes sense for you to take it. I don't know. Look, it's a bigger question because I think like when we signed up for this job and realized, it's going to require a lot of travel and instability and adventure and all of those fun things and scary things, we were like, yes, that's the point. But we did not have responsibilities.
Right. We were 25 years old.
Right. I was like,
ready to mingle.
I'll live forever. And, I think you talk to filmmakers now and like our most successful friends are gone all the time.
Oh, yeah. And it's like there is a trade-off between trying to have a family with children and being there as they're growing up, which to me, like being gone for 3 weeks from my 3-year-old is like, he's going to be like a totally different person when I'm back, That's a substantial amount of time to miss with someone who's, that's like, a percentage of my
percentage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And look, you'll be able to FaceTime with them and all of that. It'll be different, but also FaceTiming will be really hard, right? Like your wife is going to be like, hey, we can't FaceTime today because he's going to lose it. And I can't deal with him solo, right? Because we hang up and then all of a sudden there's a tantrum 5 minutes later about Play-Doh when it's really about you, like, I don't know, it's complicated stuff. But also you have to pay for their lives, right?
Yeah. That's what I told my wife, I'm like, it's going to get us closer to a new house. So
Right. Exactly.
please remember that.
And when you say a new house, you mean a bedroom for your son is what you mean, right? Like, and a good school.
Yeah.
He shares one right now is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You have
all
a
the
nice
things.
house, but like you need there are very specific reasons why for them you want a new house,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all of us. But cool. Well, so that's that. If you have any experience working out of the country, email us at justshootapod@gmail.com.
Or WhatsApp us because you have a WhatsApp account.
Oh, the WhatsApp is killing me. Nonstop WhatsApping. Do you have it on your computer?
I have WhatsApp, Slack, and Discord open on my computer in addition to text messages and email. So that's too many ways to message me.
Yeah, totally.
And boy, I hate it when somebody will message you a business opportunity on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. And you haven't checked it for like 2 weeks.
haven't checked it,
And they're
you're
like,
like,
oh, sorry. We already gave the job to Matt and Lo.
Yeah, exactly. But that part's okay. I'm all right with that.
Well, Matt, I know we're going to do a listener question, but what's happening with you recently?
Yeah, so I do have something interesting to talk about.
What are you
busy life.
freaking out about?
Well, something very different, actually. So regular listeners of the show will remember a workshop group that I am a part of from time to time called Sandbox.
Yeah,
that
kid thing, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. No.
where you
So
pee.
it's like a directing workshop, right? So like if you've got a project that you want to put up on stage to see how it's looking and feeling, all of that stuff. And my wife had been doing it for like a month and a half or something like that. And I realized, there was one slot available.
Your wife has been doing it as an actor or a director?
As a director.
Or both?
As a director.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Though both. Yeah. So the way that it works is that basically you alternate 1 week where you're presenting and 1 week where you're observing. And the week that you're observing, you're there to give notes to the other people. And everyone brings in actors to work on their scenes. And, it's like partially a writer's workshop and partially a director's workshop, is I think practically how it shakes out. And so it's great for works in progress. I've brought in my feature. We've seen a bunch of features go through the doors there that have been made. It's a great community. It's wonderful. Anyway, so
Gladiator 2, that was one of them.
Gladiator Ridley came in and look, I gave him some notes. I said, I think Paul is your man.
Dear
There we go. God, how great would that be? Anyway, I thought it was a cool opportunity to like give myself some accountability of like, okay, like it's been a minute since I've written anything new. I've got this feature going. It's not in rewrite stage. We're really in pre-production now. But I thought I was going to be shooting in December. So what if I shot a short in December instead, just to kind of, get loose? And I feel like a person who's been drinking beer and eating pizza for 10 years straight, who decides today's the day he's going to burn all of that fat off. I just feel so out of shape when it comes to my narrative muscles, which is really frustrating because I'm working 7 days a week on very creative gigs. My day job is quite creative and so it feels like I've been working those muscles.
But it's been draining those resources.
That is true.
Too.
That is true. Yeah. I don't have that like hunger in me to be like, okay, I've got the great American screenplay in me right now.
Or that hour of walking around the neighborhood just having ideas,
Yeah. I wonder if having ideas also has to do with like sleep deprivation, stress, and still early parenthood.
Doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling for sure. Yeah. So it's tonight. My pages are not great. My actors are great. And I could throw up. I'm so stressed about it.
What if you just are honest and say, hey, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. It's been like a huge goal for me to get pages up today. That said, I am ashamed to say that they're not, I think, up to snuff. So I would love for you to feel free to go off script, to put things in your own words.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's put this together because it's a collaboration that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, definitely. And part of the point of this is like not just to get back up at bat, but also I'm really trying to test different parts of my process to maybe be a little bit more improvisational or a little bit, I don't know, I'm not sure. But I was just like, well, let's get back in the ring and get started there, which again is the point. I can be honest with them. I'm not especially interested in like caveats or defensiveness, And so like setting an audience up to think that it's not good because I think that it's not good doesn't really help,
Yeah, that's an interesting, I have a really bad habit of doing that. But Usually I make a treatment in a week, but I only had 1 day for this, so it's not that great. Here it goes. And then I still try to blow them away and make them. I wonder, I've never really thought about being on the receiving end of that. Like someone telling me like, hey, this isn't great, but here's the idea. And then me being like, wow, if this is your not great version, I wonder how great it really is. Or if I'm just like annoyed by the caveats and the disclaimers.
I think there's a very big difference because the people that I'm presenting to are not my employers or bosses or anything like that. They're there to be supportive and to give notes and to give constructive criticism. Right?
Yeah. And they are your creative peers.
Certainly.
Right?
Certainly they're my creative peers, but like they're on my team, whereas like I don't need to be defensive around them. They're going to think what they think and say what they're going to say and do their best to make it as better, right? Regardless of whether I spent a week on it or 30 years on it, you know.
But you do want them to think that you have good taste, right?
So that brings up the big thing that I've been thinking about. I, as an artist and as a podcaster and as a egotistical person,
father of five,
want to be fucking awesome. Want to be untouchable, bulletproof, perfect. Bring in perfect pages, right? Of course. And that is antithetical to the point of a workshop. It is not a victory lap. The point is not to come in and be like, look how good I am, everyone, right? That's ego. And that is anti-art, right? I'm going to swing as hard as I can. I'm going to do the best that I can, absolutely. But I need to be open and aware that the point of doing this is to make it better. So if I think it's perfect walking in there and disregard everyone's notes and close my eyes. So I've seen that happen in that workshop before. I've seen people be defensive. I've seen people not be open to it. I'm not saying you have to take every single note. There are notes that I disagree with all the time, right? But you gotta absorb them. You gotta take them.
Yeah, it's the most use to take stuff that resonates with you and ignore the stuff that doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I 100% disagree that ego is anti-art, but that's for another conversation.
I think that my hope that I am, like that I have created a perfect work of art in a workshop environment, a first draft, a second draft, a draft, not a final. That expectation only limits your opportunity for growth.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you intellectually. I think that ego drives art. Like all one has to do is look at Kanye West.
I have a competition in me. Oh yeah, a perfect person to bring up. But no, yeah, like I think competitiveness is different, but pride is a complicated thing for sure.
Yeah, pride and confidence is kind of I think what ego, like a dangerous amount of a high amount of both of those is kind of I think what people maybe. Anyhow, so cool. So you're going tonight. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay, cool. Is it this is for the short? This is for a totally new.
Well, it's for the short. And then, immediately it forces you to think through like, well, why a short? Why not just write the next feature instead and workshop that and then go shoot that?
Well, because you have a feature in prep. Like, I mean, I was kind of anti-short for a long time, for many years. But I do think if you have a feature and you have a day job where you're producing and directing and creating short form commercial stuff, then making a short is kind of like rounding out, your creative muscles. And like, it's, you mentioned, you put on our list here, agenda here, something about going to the gym, but it's like, there's like the muscle days, the strength days, there's the cardio days there. You got to do kind of the different things.
Yeah.
If you want to give your brain a rest from like how to raise money or how to make your bosses happy, a short lets you just focus on the art, as you call it. I'm glad to hear that you're also freaking out about something because it's fun to freak out together and not as fun to freak out alone.
I think also it's nice that we were freaking out about two drastically different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine is much more freak out worthy. But
also don't forget, it's like there's the emotional weight of the artist's journey.
But if you are going to be in Southeast Asia from December 1st to December 10th, hit me up because I'm all alone there with no buddies. So let's hang out. Let's get some pad thai.
Let's go. Before you ship off, Oren, do you have a few more minutes to endorse with me?
Yeah, dude.
Unpaid endorsements.
Okay, so my unpaid endorsement is a podcast called Colin and Samir. Are you familiar with them? They're also YouTube types.
I think I know Wait, are they the guys that I think I sent you? Yes, Colin and Samir. I think
the YouTube.
I was sending you a video and I was like, look, these guys have 1.5 million followers and they do the same thing we do. Why are they so popular?
Well, they talk about YouTube, not about directing. That's the difference, right? And so there are a lot of people out there.
YouTube is directing.
You don't talk about optimizing thumbnails, Oren. Do you want to do an episode where we talk about optimizing thumbnails?
Sure.
Because that's what they were talking to Dude Perfect about in the most recent episode, for instance.
Yeah.
Or how they, I think it's really interesting, actually. And, I'm curious to see where we all are in 5 years, 10 years, because the Hollywood is having a tough go, right? And you and I started in digital. We kind of clawed our way out of it. And recently I have been playing with kind of a new revitalized version of digital media that's been kind of invigorating, right? Like if you're surrounded by people who are like freaking out because the industry is crumbling underneath them and you're seeing growth sectors in a place that you have experience, is there a way to carve out what I love to do in a digital environment? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I think if I stay true to what I like to do, then the rest will follow. We'll see. But so Colin and Samir is an analytical and digestible way of looking at the new media landscape with a critical eye and like a sense of optimism. I guess that's what I like about the show, right? Whereas I love The Town as well. The Town's working really hard to not be doom and gloom in a scenario where at a certain point they're just, you can't just ignore the writing on the wall, so to speak.
Right.
So, Colin and Samir. Kaplan, what you got?
That's good. Yeah. I have also kind of a cultural reference of something I've been watching and listening to. I talked about All the Hacks this podcast a while ago. Actually, Yuki Noguchi told me that he started listening to it and he's made all sorts of life decisions based on All the Hacks. But I listened to maybe 1 out of 5 episodes, but I saw an episode today, episode title that really grabbed my attention. And that episode was called The Holiday Gift Guide and Top Ways to Save Money on Gifts. And my wife, it's November 20th right now, is like, Oren, you got to start like filling the Amazon cart with like gifts for the kids. We got Hanukkah, we got Christmas, we got Santa, we got all this stuff coming up.
Black Friday is coming up, so if you
Black Friday
ahead of that,
yes.
For sure.
And so he has this holiday gift guide, the 2024 holiday gift guide. You can go to allthehacks.com/gifts to see his list. He does, have some affiliate links and things, but I very much believe, like if you listen to his episode and listen to his show, that he only recommends things that he really loves. And a ton of the things he recommends, he has all these hacks of how to get them back, like money back. Like he's like, if you go to Rakuten right now, you can get 10% back on like Nike.com purchases, or, Chase Sapphire is doing this, or Amex is giving you 20% off. Like today I went to Mendocino Farms for lunch because he was mentioning all these Amex offers and I looked at my Amex app and it's like, 20% off Mendocino Farms. So I went and had lunch there. So, it's hard to tell how much all these things add up, like $10 here, $20 here, 5% here, 6% there. But he's like a guy that's definitely saved or made like thousands and thousands of dollars a year on cash back, just like buying things in specific ways. But he just had these really good recommendations. So if you go to that website, he has like personal tech, kitchen, food and drink, gifts, clothing and gear, health and fitness, games. He has 2 young kids. So he has like, here's a board game that a 3-year-old can play. Here's books for adults, for kids. Here's apps to save on shopping for your holiday shopping. So yeah, there's one app called Cashback Monitor that compares the cashback and points across all the different shopping portals. So if you have like an Amex and a Chase Sapphire and a Amazon Prime card, it tells you like, use this card to buy this gift because you'll get 8% back here.
Optimizes it.
Or like triple miles or whatever. So anyhow, I used to hate this stuff with a passion. Like I would be so annoyed when people talk to me about credit card points, but now for some reason I'm really into it. And
Friend
I
of the
do
show,
like
Julia Prescott is
save money.
Just got back from Japan, and I think she paid for everything with points.
Oh yeah, we're going to Hawaii.
Points.
Well, we're flying Delta. I bought. Did I tell you about my Delta hack a little bit? Now
maybe
I'm flying Delta to Thailand, so it bumped me into platinum status. And which means you basically almost always get upgraded to at least Comfort Plus, which is like the premium economy. But they only upgrade you if you are 1 or 2 people. If you're 3 or more people, they use the lowest person status, which usually is no status. Like your kids probably don't have status. And if you're 2 people, they use the highest person status. So this is a trick that I learned from our friend Grant, is you book 2 separate flights. Like I book Kara and one of the kids, and I book me and one of the kids. And if we get upgraded, I'll just let Kara and my daughter, take the upgraded seats and we'll sit in the back. But so I bought the cheap tickets with cash, and then I get like whatever Delta rewards, through the Delta portal with the Delta credit card. And then I used my free tickets. I used points to buy the more expensive tickets. And then I used my Chase Sapphire points for our entire hotel, like a week of hotel in Hawaii.
That's awesome.
So, and they're super flexible. Like our friends, we're going with Grant and his family and his kids, and they just told us what hotel they booked, and we just booked the exact same one using Chase Sapphire. So, it's like you do end up spending a lot of money to get this money back, but if you're going to spend money anyway, and this is the host of All the Hacks, I forget his name, says, he's like, you should never buy anything not on a credit card, because you can always, like, any purchase you make, like, can return you something back. So anyhow, allthehacks.com/gifts. I believe when this episode comes out, it'll probably be like 3 weeks from now. So I think it's like mid-December, and you'll still have time
a little bit
buy some gifts, especially it's like better time last minute to have these recommendations. But a lot of them are like on Amazon Prime, so you can get them like tomorrow. Anyhow, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thanks so much. If you have any tips, tricks, or thoughts on freaking out, drop us a line at justshootitpod@gmail.com, or hit us up on social media at justshootitpod, or me at Mr. Maddenlow across all social media.
And I'm on Instagram at @okaplan. This episode is edited by Kevin O. Yang. Thanks, Kevin. Produced by Tyler Small. And you're listening to music from the Free Music Archive and the artist Jazar. And we will catch you next time.